Israel Adesanya, you are a sly little man. I'm calling you out today for one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in all of my life. Like, genuinely, when I think about this situation, it makes me so angry, and it's weird how angry I get over the situation. How, people might say, oh, he's in your head, all the little girl Adesanya fans, oh, he's in your head and all this. No, I just think I stand for something, and I don't like people being delusional and people taking a little breadcrumb and running with it in a fake narrative. And I think the community really is starting to realise that you're not a good individual. You're a really annoying, bratty, spoilt little... I'm not going to swear in the first minute of the video, just so it doesn't get taken down, but... Dricus Du Plessis, the man, the fucking man, the boy. I'm an African, but I ain't no brother of yours, son. Oh, fucking quality that was, Dricus. I gave Dricus some credit in the fact he could go out there and stop Whittaker, and he did. Unreal. I won a bit of money on him. I put a wee bet on him. So fantastic. Thank you so much, Dricus. But when it comes to Israel, I hate you. I can't stand you as a man, as a champion. You have like this thing of where you have to make everything about you. It's just like, I manifested this. I manifest. It's like, shut up. I just hate you. I just hate you so much, Israel. I can't stand you. You're not in my head. I don't think about you every second of every day. But when it comes to this situation, it's just a situation that I stand for something different than you, and I can't handle thinking about this type of thing without being massively angry, and I feel a bit just really pissed off when I think about it. Really fucked off, and I'm going to speak about it right now. When Dricus had that Octagon interview, I think it was after Brad Tavares, he said he wants to be the first real African fighter in the UFC. Right? There's your breadcrumb. He meant it in a way of, he was born in Africa. He's grown up in Africa, and he fights out of a gym that is in Africa. He trains in Africa. He wakes up every morning in Africa. Hence the real African bit. It just grinds my gears. Listen to this. You come out and you're saying all this, I know where I'm from, do a 23andMe, and all this and that. Brother, you live in New Zealand. You've won the UFC belt through your gym in New Zealand. You are an African man, Israel. You are from Africa. There's no doubt about that. You are a true African. You're a real African. But you're not fighting out of Africa. And this is what I think you don't understand. You're just ignoring that. And all Dricus has to say is, do you fight out of Africa? And he goes, no, but I'm a real African. Dricus knows you're a real African. Dricus in interviews has said he knows you're African. He's never once said you're not African, or Usman's not African. It's the same situation. Leon Edwards said he's the first UK fighter to win the belt out of the UK because Bisping went to America. You know what Bisping said? Bisping said, okay, fuck you, buddy, but I suppose it is true. I suppose he did actually do that. The only reason is Adesanya's victimizing himself. You're trying to pull out the black card and make it about race to build this thing, and you've taken that little breadcrumb and you've made it about race, and it really pisses me off because are you not confident enough in yourself? Oh, I know I'm African. I know I'm a real African man. I fight out of New Zealand, but you represent Africa. I represent Africa, so that's okay. I think there's a bit inside you and a bit inside Usman that isn't quite connected with Africa the same way. That's why you're having such an issue with this. You're not connected to Africa the same way Dricus is. I think that's what it is. That's why you're getting so railed up, and that's why it gets me so railed up, because shouting the M-word in Dricus's face and saying all this, trying to be all African all of a sudden. What happened to you saying you were Chinese? And what happened to you saying you bleeding are from New Zealand? What about the New Zealand people that you're fighting out of New Zealand, but you're representing Africa? And you're coming across like a little dickhead. You know, it's really pissing me off. You don't fight out of Africa. He will be the first UFC champion that resides out of Africa, who trains in Africa, who lives in Africa. Why can't you get that through your fucking head? No one's saying you're not fucking African, Israel. Like, no one's saying you're not African. No one said you're not an African man. You saying to Dricus, I'll show you who an African is and all this and that. Mate, you're both African, I suppose. And maybe you could say you're more African because you're fucking black, you know what I mean? But Dricus trains out of Africa. So he will be the first African residing UFC champion. You could never be that. You've grown up in New Zealand. You've never grown up in Africa for like more than 5 years. You know, like, mate, you grew up with slaves. You grew up with servants. You had a bather, someone who bathed you till you were 8 years old. You have your gay little nails. You have all this shit. You're a phenomenal athlete, a phenomenal fighter, and an incredible champion, Israel, right? You can fucking fight, but you don't fight out of Africa. And the only reason I think you've got an issue with it is because you're not confident in your roots. You can say all this in the interviews and the press conferences, saying you know where you're from, look at your skin and all this, do a 23andMe. Dricus Du Plessis, born in Africa, fights out of Africa and represents Africa. Israel Adesanya, born in Africa, represents Africa, fights out of New Zealand. You are just as African as each other. You are both born in Africa. The only difference here is he is the only residing champion in Africa. You've taken that one breadcrumb that he said when he said, I will be a real African fighter in the UFC, and you've made it all about race, and you've made it all about being black and being white. You are the issue with the fucking world. Racism is a terrible thing. No one should be this or that because of skin colour. And this wasn't the situation. He said he will be the first champion living in Africa and fighting out of Africa. Like, you can never say he can't be, because he will be, because you're not. And you've brought in all this about race and all this. And Ariel Helwani as well. What a little cunt he is. Lying practically every video. Man, you know, man. Fuck off, Ariel, as well. Right? I'm literally out the shower. I've just been on a run and I've come back and I'm just thinking about this. Shut up. Shut your fucking mouth, Israel Adesanya. You've made it a horrible situation. You've made it a vile, rotten undertone to it. And all of your 9-year-old girl fans who haven't got their periods yet, who haven't built their own opinions, agree with you. You've made it a horrible situation. There's a really nasty, horrible vibe now around that fight, because it's been made into something that it's not. A really good narrative would have been Dricus wants to become the first champion to fight out of Africa to win a UFC title, and you're going to stop that. And you could say you'll do it for the African people and all this and that, and make it fun, playful. Why are you so against fighting out of New Zealand all of a sudden? Because someone could do something that you're never sure of yourself. Israel, you're a prick. You're a little cunt. You're a little sly, gay little bastard, right? Oh, did I use the word gay there? Oh, well, I suppose if you can be racist, I can be homophobic. Is that the case? No, that's not how it works. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gutted that, like, because it's taken away from Dricus so much, because he's worked hard. I didn't think he'd win against Whittaker. I had a feeling he would, just because, you know, why not? And he did. And I'm so gutted at the fact that you've really put a bad undertone and you've made it about being black and white. You've literally done that. You will never be an African residing champion because you built a life in New Zealand and not your homeland. That's all it is. Fucking own it, you pussy. Own it. I'm not saying fight and talk. I'm not talking fight and I'm not talking fight and talk. I think as an individual, I literally can't stand you. Like, I think you are such a great fighter, such a strong-minded individual, but you're also a girly little cuck as well, who gets their nails painted and 1 second wants to be a man and the next second wants to be a little effeminate, you know, so you know, oh, this is my moment, I manifested this main character syndrome. You know, I hope Dricus takes you down and batters you and sleeps you and wins the belt, then takes the belt home to fucking Africa, to his home. You took the belt to Africa and then got on a flight and went to fucking New Zealand, you little cunt. You got on the flight, went to Africa, walked around the slums with your belt, then went back to New Zealand. Dricus is going back to Africa and he's staying in Africa. You're both African men, but he resides in Africa. That's all this is, and you can't handle that because you aren't. I don't think you're fully secure in being a true African, because you listen to your voice. The only time we ever hear you sound any way remote African is when you put on that fucking accent. You do all this and pound your chest, and you put on that fucking voice. You're in New Zealand, brother. Dricus, and you're Chinese as well, aren't you? Dricus, you hear his accent, South Africa. So that's all I've really got to say on this. I needed to get that off my chest. Israel Adesanya is a little cock of a man. Truly, I can't handle him. I can't stand him. I think he's so fucking irritating. I think he's taken a breadcrumb of Dricus saying one thing and he's made it about this. He wanted this to happen because everybody knows if you put the two men next to each other and there's a black man and a white man, the one saying he's more African than the other is white, it's going to cause outrage, and he's kind of spun that narrative, even though that's not the real narrative. So fuck Israel Adesanya. Fuck you. I manifest and I'm praying for your downfall. Not because you're in my head and not because of any of this and that. Men don't want to be you. No one looks at Israel Adesanya and thinks, I look up to him, I want to be him. Literally, you are a cheating, roid-using bastard. Like, I can't even describe it. Like, everyone sucks your dick so much. I don't know why. I think if you really dissect everything you say and look at you, you're a cringe arsehole. Like, you're literally like, fuck you, you silly little cunt, you know what I mean? Like, I think you're I think you're scum of the earth. And of course, you know, whatever. You're far ahead of me in life. You're UFC champion, but the fact you've brought race into it when it wasn't intended that way, I don't know why, to sell a fight or something, to ruin a man's credibility, to do whatever you were planning on doing. Well done, fair play to you. You've done it. You've made your event in Sydney in September a really horrible, nasty undertone to it. And fair play to you. Whatever. Fuck you. Whatever.